Peace. Evolve Benton here, the Speaking for Profit coach. And today we are going to be talking about a very important topic for speakers, for consultants, for folks who are utilizing their voice to impact the world, because that is what we're here to do at Speaking for Profit University, right? We are here to impact the world with our voices, to tell our stories, and to change the world. So, a little bit about today's training. I'm going to run you through what I believe to be the 10 most impactful ways that we can show up and really deliver a good speech. Because I want you to know that if we're able to deliver a good speech, we will be hired over and over again and given opportunities to really support clients on a massive level. So I'm going to tell you a short narrative here. When I first started speaking and consulting, it was really out of the model of needing a side gig, right? And if you are a person who can resonate with this, just put word side gig into the comments of this video if you're watching here on YouTube, or if you're watching within our course modules. I wanted a side gig, something that I could utilize because my current job was not paying me enough. But when I first thought about a side gig, the thing that I thought about, number one, was things that I was seeing in the media marketing, right? So I thought about DoorDash and Uber and how I could maybe go out and sell some poetry books, right? And I did a little bit of all of this. I'm going to admit that to you. But it wasn't until I got back into my zone of genius, which was speaking and consulting, that I found something that was really supportive. And that was being able to either keynote, be on a panel, or be a thought expert around diversity, equity, and inclusion. So for me, I was like, okay, cool. I have found my lane. This is an opportunity. And then I had to figure out pricing. How much am I going to charge for these speaking engagements, right? So it's been a journey. And what I want to say is, when you're able to deliver an impactful speech, you're in a space where, hey, Naima, welcome to the space. Glad you could make it. When you're able to deliver an impactful speech, you're in a space to really build out a relationship with someone, right? Because impactful speeches allow people to really see you as the genius that you are, but it also allows them to see you in other rooms that they might have in their organization or at other events that they've been to. And we've all been to an event, right? Where we've been there and we're like, this speaker is not that good. This speaker is not well rehearsed. The speaker does not know what they're talking about. The speaker is making me more sad than happy. And we don't want to be that. So, what we're going to talk about today is, of course, what are some strategies you can do for writing the speech? But instead of thinking about just writing, I want us to really think about impact as an energy. When we step into a space and we're confident and we feel really affirmed to be there, we're going to show up differently no matter how good the speech is. If we step into a space and we aren't feeling ourselves, if we're not feeling ourselves, we're like, you know what, self, I don't really know what kind of energy I'm in. I'm not sure. I'm unsure. I'm feeling like an imposter. It's going to be completely different. So before we even sit down to write a speech, there are a few things that we want to do, right? And the first thing that we want to do is we want to establish our pre-talk ritual. And we have modules within our course, everyone, about putting together your pre-talk ritual. If you need support with that or you want to find that, just go on and send us a message in our community and we'll get that to you. But a little bit about that. Your pre-talk ritual should be something that energizes you and prepares you for that particular subject or moment that you're talking about. And that looks different depending on the topic, right? If I'm going into a graduation and I'm speaking about resilience, or I want to empower people, then I might go in and I might listen to some Kendrick Lamar. I might go for a walk. I might do some push-ups. I might really try to get my blood to circulating in my body, because I know that resilience takes a lot of energy. And I want them to hear that in the power of my voice. Now, if I'm going into a space where some harm has been done, and maybe people need some meditation or some opportunities to have some transforming conversations where we really need to be centered, maybe I'll listen to a little bit of my meditation music or some jazz. And I might still go for that walk because I do believe in like getting my blood flowing before I speak. But I'm going to go in with a little bit more of a quietness, more of an attuneness, more of a groundedness, right? So for you, you've got to know what that audience is going to need from you before you step on the stage, whether it's a virtual stage or whether it's a stage that's in person. You've got to know what type of pre-talk ritual you need to put together for yourself so that you're able to be grounded and successful. And we have some examples of that, right? But you know that for yourself. What gets the jitters out? Right? What makes you feel the least amount of nervousness? Now, I'm not saying what makes you feel unnervous because we're all going to be nervous. And to be honest with you, when you're nervous about speaking or showing up, that's sometimes a good thing. Those chills that you get on your body, that's showing that you're showing up in a moment of your divinity and you're supposed to be there. Right? So the first thing we want to have is our pre-talk ritual. The second thing is that we want to define our audience and know our audience and our purpose of being there. And this is so important because this is information that you're going to grab from that organization or that person that you're speaking with way before you even get to the speaking engagement. Way before you get there. If you have not gotten your notebook out, you might want to get it now, right? So you want to have this together. You want to have who's your audience, what's the outcomes, and what's the theme of the event, so that you can make sure what you're anchoring your writing in and your preparation in is all centered around that. So, for example, another story for you. I was at an event recently. It was a speakers event, and it was a speakers event for folks who are a little bit more religious, Christian. They used a lot of God language, which was great. I'm down with God, so I was happy to be there. But at the event, they were sharing an example of a person who did not know his audience. So it was a coach, and he went to an event that was the NCAA, right? He was speaking there to an audience about a particular topic, and he started to talk about Britney Spears and Madonna when they kissed, right? And he put an image of them up on the screen, and he kind of talked about it in a way where he was disgusted with it. My daughter will never be this, right? When he did that, the organization was appalled. Several people from the LGBT community were there, and he put his foot in his mouth, right? Because he did not read his audience. He didn't know who his audience was, and he decided to say that. And not only did it impact that moment, it impacted him being able to get future bags, future opportunities with them. So it's important that we're clear about our audience because it's going to change the language that we use, right? When we know we're showing up in community with young folks, we might show up a lot differently than we're showing up with our elders. If we know we're speaking at a college graduation compared to speaking at a national event, we might use different language. So we want to be cued in on who's the audience, and even more than who's the audience, who's the culture, what is the cultural norm right now? What's going on in culture? What are the higher level events that are happening that I should know about this topic that I might want to bring up? So we started off with pre-talk ritual, and then we wanted to define your audience. Once we know our audience, right, and we know our purpose of the event organizer has told us about that information. The next step that we really want to step into is researching our topic and gathering relevant information. And I think that this is so important for us as thought experts, right? We are experts of our story. We're experts of the fields that we've worked in. Many of you who are in Speaking for Profit University have done this work for several years. And even if you're just starting professionally, you've got to think about how long has this been an interest for you? Even if you haven't been doing it in a professional place, you've had an interest in it. Maybe you read some books on the topic, whatever it may be. For instance, diversity, equity, inclusion. At this point, while this video is being recorded, I've been doing this almost 12 years. So when we get into that level of expertise, sometimes humility is hard to find. And what we start to think of ourselves is we know it all. And then we don't do the research. We don't look up relevant information. And we're just doing the same trainings over and over again. And I think that that's great. But I think there comes to a point where you want to check your facts. You want to check the statistics you're going to be sharing. You want to check the nature of the work and do that consistently. Because to be honest with you, truly that's what makes you an expert. Your experience in the field, the topics that you speak about, Yes, that's making you an expert, but your ability to know humility, to know that you don't know it all, and to go deeper and look for a little bit more information is what's going to take you to the next level. Because then you're going to be bringing in not just industry norms, you're going to be bringing in things that maybe people don't know and adding extreme value to that moment. So don't skip the step of doing a little bit of the extra research to make sure that the things you're speaking about are relevant, connected, and that you have some evidence when you're speaking. Now, two things that I'll say about this. If it's a speaking opportunity where you're speaking from the stage and it's a keynote, right? This is more important because maybe there's a current event that's happened with that audience that you want to bring up, or maybe there's a statistic that you want to share that's going to really show a gap in the conversation to make people feel like they're connected to you more, right? But when it comes to training and development, I'm going to double down on this. If you're doing a training for an organization, and let's say you have a PowerPoint presentation that you've put together in the last 5 to 10 years, I would update that and make sure that everything is up to date so that you make sure that you're not just the industry standard, but beyond that. So, how do we do research? That might be your question. Read some articles, look at some maybe literature. YouTube is a powerful place, right? All the forms of media that we have, you pick what helps you learn the quickest and what's going to get you the information, and you look that up. You don't have to do a whole lot of labor and a whole lot of work, but you do want to make sure that the data that you're communicating with people is up to date and up to par. So if you're enjoying this training and this is impacting you in a great way, just put the word joy into the comments. I want you all to know that the reason that I love Speaking for Profit University so much is that I get to do what I love all day, every day, especially when I'm able to teach you all amazing information and help you take your life to the next level. So if you're loving this and you're watching this on YouTube, go on and put the word joy in the comments. Make sure that you have subscribed to us. And if you're watching this within our modules, you should have some comment space to put that as well. So let's move on. Let's continue to talk about how we can make sure that we show up in an impactful way. And I want us to know that impact works both ways. You're impacting your audience, but you're also impacting yourself because you're sharing your story, you're sharing your expertise, and you know that you're changing the world. So the next thing is that we want to really organize our speech. And the way that I organize my speech is called crafting your talk. And we do have a training on this. But what I want you to know, crafting your signature talks and your speech should really be about storytelling. And what I want us to think about for storytelling is that every point that you have, and you all can see me kind of practicing this as I'm speaking today to you about this particular topic. Every point that I've had a story to double down on it. Because to be honest with you, people are going to remember the stories sometimes more than they even remember the points. They're going to remember how you left them and made them feel more than they're going to remember what was the topic or the title of your speech. So when you have a point, so if I'm talking about resilience, we'll use that as an example. I'm speaking at a college campus, and maybe the first topic I'm going to talk about is shame, right? Making sure that you don't hold shame for the things that you didn't know that you wish you know, right? I'm going to tell a story about that that's going to empower the fact that even though I might have had a lapse in judgment, I still came out on top. And when we're telling those stories, we want to use our 5 senses, right? We want to use taste, we want to use touch, we want to use smell, we want to use ears, we want to use sight, we want to use all of it, right? We want people to really be connected to it. So when I'm telling the story about my grandmother, I might do her voice a little bit. I might really go into slowness because we know when the elders are speaking to us, they're speaking very slow. I might use one of her quotes. I use one of her quotes all the time. Charity starts at home and then spreads. Charity starts at home and then spreads abroad, evolve, right? There's different things that we can do with our voices and with the way that we articulate to really get into storytelling mode. And y'all know that. And if you want to get some practice, go volunteer for some young people at your local library. They will tell you if your storytelling skills are good or not. But we really want to get into that when we're writing, because For me personally, and some other speech writers might have other opinions, and that's fine. I don't call myself a speech writer. I'm a speaker, right? So I'm going to break it down a little bit. I like to have points. I don't like to have something I got to read, right? I just want to remember what story and what point I want to bring in. So it makes it a lot easier when you're outlining to be able to say, okay, I'm going to have this point and it's going to drag into this story, this point and it's going to drag into this story. It also makes you more authentic because even if you were to do that speech again, trust me, you might tell the story in a particular way, but it's not going to always be the same way. And go look at some folks who have shared their story with the world numerous times, right? If you go look up Oprah, Maya Angelou, Will Smith, if you go look up Eddie Murphy, some of our greats in the African American community, especially entertainers, you will see that they share their story. They'll tell you about their upbringing. They'll tell you about their first break. They'll tell you about their failures, but it's always in a different way, even though it's the same story. And that's what I want you to get really good at, being able to craft your talk. So that's going to be the next thing that you do. You're going to organize those main points and supporting evidence, right? And evidence is either your story or data. And even data has a story that you can bring together. Here's one for you. I was reading an article recently because, as you know, at this time of this video, a lot of people have been laid off, especially in the tech industry. And we're starting to see more entrepreneurs in the field. But the other thing that we're seeing is that there's a gap between people who have public speaking skills and who don't. And that gap is about 15%. People who have really confident public speaking skills are able to make 15% more than their counterparts who don't have it. And the reasons that we're listing in this article were that the company will see you as more confident, so therefore give you more opportunities to lead. Often you're asked to speak outside of just your department, so other parts of the company can see you, and you might have an opportunity to get another gig there. There's so many things that come around to that. You might even ask for a raise more than others because you're more willing to use your voice because you have confidence. And this is data that I read in this article, right? So even though I'm giving you data, and I don't have the exact statistic, I think it's 15%, y'all. When I go into that, it's a story, right? It's a story about where we're at right now in our economy, the gaps that we're seeing in the workplace, and how public speaking can help people make more money. So even if you have data that you're bringing in, always make sure that you pair that data with a story. So the next thing that you want to do is you want to think about what will make this speech better. And it was interesting. I was talking to one of my colleagues that's a marketing person right now, and they were saying how people love memes, love GIFs right now, GIFs, whatever you call them, love images. So I go to a lot of conferences and I'll see people have a PowerPoint. But if you notice now, PowerPoints are a lot less text and more visuals. So if there are visual aids that you want to utilize, you might want to start to outline that in your speech so that you can put an amazing presentation together to go with it. This can be video. This can be, memes like we talked about, GIFs. This could be so many different things, sculptures, paintings, things that you want to have there. I remember I was at a poetry event a few years ago and the poets were speaking and they had someone painting while they were speaking and putting together something, right? There's so many ways that you can make your speech and your opportunity more interactive and memorable, but you've really got to get into that storytelling and think about it. What do you want to add and what can add value to that person's experience to make sure that they're more connected with all their senses, right? Like, is there smells? Is there smoke? Is there fire that you want to come out when you come out? Is there a particular song that you want to be playing when you go up to that stage? All of that is a part of the intentionality of the experience and the impact that you are creating for that moment. So when you're putting your speech together, if you're able to think about that and get really excited, these are some of the things you can add to the opportunity, right, to make yourself really memorable. Now, what I want to say, and I want to say this to all my overachievers out there that I know are watching this video, you don't have to be that person who does this in a way that puts you in a position where you feeling like you are doing good if you're just speaking. I don't want you to feel that way. I don't want you to feel that way. You don't have to get all of these glitter and glam. This is just a suggestion for you. You don't have to do that though. I want you to know that, right? Agree with me. Because you don't want to spend all your money on this as well. What I'm saying is if there are visual aids, pictures, keep it simple. You can do it. But if you get a budget for some, why not go for it, right? It's always fun to be on stage and have those opportunities. Now, virtually, we have those opportunities too, right? We can use music when we're on Zoom. We can bring in different things like movement into our presentations. We can bring in graphs and scales and so much. So, really get into it. And for my folks who are watching this and you're like, you know what, Evolve, this sounds good, but I'm not that techie person. Good. I don't want you to be. You're here to speak for profit. So that means that you need to delegate it. There's plenty of folks on Fiverr. We have a list of folks that we can give you as well that are in our community that have supported it. So if PowerPoint ain't your thing, if putting together keynotes, presentation, visuals aren't your thing, this is when you delegate out because you've already secured the bag. If you're talking about putting together impactful speech, it's already secured. So add that as an expense to make this an amazing experience for your audience. All right, let's move on to the next step, right? Because we want to keep this going. We've got our visual aids, we've got our storytelling. Now let's get into how we show up as a powerhouse. How do we show up as a powerhouse? And I want you to know this. This is all about preparation. The amount of reps that you put into speaking and sharing this speech is going to be better for you. So, the first thing that I'm going to say, you already know what's coming, is practice. Doing the speech out loud, sharing it with your friends, sharing with your pets, sharing it with your plant, sharing it on a live video just like this one to get prepared. Share, share, share because you'll get better with it. You'll be more intimate with it. You'll know it. You'll know it in and out. And the reason I say to just not just share it like in front of a mirror, I remember when I was first doing some speaking training, they were like, you just get in front of a mirror and do it so you can see yourself and all that. And that's great. Also, recording yourself is great. But being in front of an audience is helpful because you never know when different cues are going to happen. And you don't want to experience that for the first time on stage. So, different parts of your speech, depending on how you pitch it and how you say it, might make people laugh, and you might not even be aware that it's humorous. I have some poems that I've done before, and people start laughing at it. And I'm like, wait a minute. I didn't even know that was going to be funny, right? So, you'll get used to it as the more times you do it. But if you don't do it in front of an audience, you won't see that. So practice the speech. And what I always suggest is that we slow it down. And what I mean by slow it down is intentionally speak slow. Speak slow, pace yourself, listen to your tone. And the reason I say speak slow in particular is because when we get on stage, whether it's virtually or in person, we get more excited and we normally speak faster. So if you practice the speech in a slower form, by the time you get on the stage, you'll probably be at a good rhythm for yourself. When we get nervous, it's just something that we do, right? We start speeding through. We want our body to speed through. And that's why that pre talk ritual is so important so that you can be really grounded in your body and don't want to run away from the opportunity because of your nerves. It's going to come up. Even if you're a person that speaks all the time, there's some stage that will make you nervous. Like I know for myself, I've done a lot of public speaking at this point. I've spoke at my organization the last 10 years. I've done graduations, I've done LGBT events, I've done Pride, I've done national events, I've done international events, I've done virtual events, events during COVID, so much. But guaranteed, if Auntie Oprah or Beyonce or any of the people that I think are great, especially Black women, were to call me to do a speech, I know there would be some nerves. These palms would be sweaty. I would be praying to the ancestors and I would be prepared because I am about doing it. But there's everyone has a stage that they'll be a little bit more nervous on. And I want you to know that's okay. That's why we prepared. Prepare yourself for the moment. Wear clothes that are comfortable. Try the clothes on before you get there. Eat something that you know is not going to have your stomach feeling like, ooh, wee, while you're on the stage. It's all a part of your preparation. So prepare for the moment. And then the next thing that I'll say is, as we're getting into more of the speech delivery, is that you really want to think about how you can engage your audience in joy or laughter. And what I always say about this is if we're going to bring joy or laughter or humor into our speech, we want it to be about ourselves or about our family, about our people. You never want to come up there and be Mr. or Mrs. or them this comedian. Right? You don't need to do that. MX. I love MX. That's one that I use when I go to events and I don't want them to gender me. I'll use MX or I'll use Doctor. I'll be Dr. Evolve. But let me not go on a tangent. But you don't want to be the one who is sitting up there in a space where you are making fun of your audience. That's the least thing that you want to do. So if you have something that is humorous, make sure it's connected to you or to your family. And I see my fam is on here. Hey, Brendan, welcome to the space. You want to make sure that that's impactful in that way. So some jokes that I sometimes will share, I'll share things about my dad. I'll share things about my growing up. I'll share things about my awkwardness, my quirkiness. I'll share some things as I get older about being older in the older generation, right? I'll share all my stories. And a lot of it is sometimes humorous, but I'm never going to call someone out in the audience and make them feel uncomfortable, right? That's the line and the boundary that I draw because I'm not there to be a comedian. I'm there for a particular outcome if I'm a training and development, or I'm there for a particular outcome even if I'm a keynote speaker. So I hope this information has been helpful. I've got one more tip for you, and then we're going to wrap this training up. If you are just getting here, or if you're watching this live, just realize the replay will be up in our modules in the next few days. But I really want to start doing more training and also more virtual space for us to come together and become better speakers. So look out for that. There'll be opportunities for you to come to the Speaking for Profit University virtual stage and share some of your experiences. And hopefully in the near and dear future, there'll also be an opportunity for you to come to our physical stage, right? For us to hit our physical stage together and share some of our principles, our speeches, our motivations, the things that inspire us, and really share our voice, right? Because we can be amazing speakers, but if we're together, we are a powerhouse, right? And that's what I see us as in our community. So the last tip that I'll give you, right, on steps to write an impactful speech is the ending, your conclusion. You want to make sure that you leave the audience with a bang. And what we often do are two things. We can go back to the beginning, right? Was there a statement or a prompt or a story in the beginning that you want to bring back to the end, that you want to make sure that the audience is grounded in? One thing that you should not do, and I want you to write this down and underline it. Do not say in conclusion during your speech. Boring, boring. Why are we doing that? No one wants that. I don't want to know it's ending. Just take me to the end, right? Because once you're delivering a speech to someone or even doing a training or development, they know the end is coming. They could tell by it with you energetically, but guide them. Be that facilitator of that moment and of that speech. Guide them to the end with your story, with your tone, with your voice, with yourself. Don't give them in conclusion. Don't do that. I've done that. There's probably speeches of me doing that. I'm not saying I haven't. I'm just saying it's a rule right now. We're not going to do that. Okay. So guide them to the end with something strong. Something strong can be a quote. Something strong could be a song. Something strong could be bringing them up, right? Having a moment where you're really passionate and talking about that particular point and then bringing them down. It's so much that you can do there. But the one thing that you want to leave your audience with is concluded, done, and grounded. You don't want to go up and go up and go up and then just run off the stage, right? If you're going to bring the energy up where there's excitement, laughter, we've got to bring them back down into their seats so that they can really be present in the moment. because you want them to remember that end just like they remembered that beginning, right? I often think about when we're speaking and consulting and we're on stage, it's very much like a roller coaster. We're taking them up and down. We're taking them through an experience, some ins and outs where they're feeling it in their body, they're feeling it in their soul, right? Because our voices allow us to not just speak for profit and make money, but it allows us to speak for prophecy. It allows us to change the world, change their world, change our own world. So when we're speaking spells, we want to take the power in the space. We want to take that responsibility. We want to be a leader in that moment, and we want to take them. We are the facilitator of that moment. We've been given that mic. We've been given that opportunity. There were other speakers who put in for that and they didn't get it. So why would we not conclude without saying in conclusion, but why would we not bring them there? And don't just ramble off. And be silent. Hold the moment. And don't forget to tell them how they can support you. Right? So often we'll end and then I'll give that moment. I'll give a moment even for an applause. They'll think it's over. And then I'm going to say, again, I'm Evolve Benton. If you want to support my work, this is the way you can do it. Do not feel bad about a shameless plug because you've given them your life energy, your time, your space away from your family. You are there in that moment. So don't hesitate to share with them how they can have a moment with you again. And that's how you write an impactful speech, right? And y'all thought y'all were going to be in here just with some prompts, right? Y'all thought we were just going to have some writing prompts, right? Nah, this is more about the experience in the writing. And I wanted you to get that from this workshop. Now, yeah, writing is important, but what's really important is that you know it, your voice knows it, and the audience knows it. So I don't care if you're a person who has cue cards. I don't care if you're a person who writes on their hand. As long as this vessel is going to present something that is powerful, that is what I want for you. That is what I want for you. So if you're watching now and you have some questions, this is a time for Q&A. We'll leave it open for about 5-10 minutes, see if folks have questions. You may have taken some notes. And if you do have questions and maybe you're like, I do, but I need a little bit more support, you know that we have a coaching call coming up and you can come there and ask me or one of our amazing coaches any questions about this content and how to support you. But I'm here now. Are there any questions that you have about how to write an impactful speech, how to deliver an impactful speech, or any of the points that I went over for today? Give it a few minutes because I see there's a few people here live. And what I'll answer, even though no one has a question, what I'll say is a frequently asked question is, what's the difference between a keynote presentation and a training? Two differences. Keynote presentation, we have a theme, we have a space, we have a time, and our theme is often just to speak. We're there for entertainment more than education. That's what I want you to think about that when we think about keynote. Training, development, workshop, we're there for more information than entertainment. We should have both in each presentation. If you're doing a training, you want to have probably 75% information, 25% entertainment. If you're doing a keynote, you want to have about 50-50, 50% entertainment, or maybe 75-60, right? Entertainment. And then the other aspect of it should be also information, right? So it's just a different way of delivering our points and a different way of engaging in the audience. When someone's coming to a keynote, they expect to leave with more emotionality than to be left with information, right? So that's how I would look at it for that. So I see some folks don't have questions, but but they're driving, they're doing different things. That is powerful. I want to thank you all for being here, whether you're here in the live here on YouTube or you're watching this later on for some professional development to make sure that you are a speaker that over delivers. I just want to thank you for this moment and taking this space and time with me. I'm Evolve Benton, the Speaking for Profit coach. This is Speaking for Profit University, and I hope that this helps you not only stand out, but step into leadership as an impactful speaker. All right. Have a good one, and I'll see you around at a coaching call really soon. Peace.